Hello and welcome. Gather around, everyone, because tonight I have a very special Christmas story for you, a tale of courage, kindness, and a little bit of holiday magic. It's called Bello the Post Owl and the Late Letter to Santa. High in the snowy mountains, where the wind sings a chilly lullaby through the pine trees, lived a small brown owl named Bello. Now, Bello wasn't just any owl. He was a post bird, and his most important job came once a year, during the most wonderful time of all. Every winter, as the world sparkled with frost, Bello helped deliver thousands of letters to the one and only Santa Claus at the North Pole. He was fast, reliable, and knew every shortcut through the swirling snow. His feathers were perfectly insulated against the cold, and his big round eyes could see even the faintest glimmer of a distant chimney. Bello took great pride in his work. He loved seeing the hopeful scribbles of children, their letters filled with dreams of toys, puppies, and everything in between. He knew that each letter he carried held a tiny piece of Christmas magic, a wish waiting to come true. But one particularly cold night, just as the world was settling down for Christmas Eve, something unexpected happened. Bello was making his final flight back to his cozy nest in an old oak tree, his delivery bag completely empty. The moon was a bright silver coin in the dark sky, and the stars twinkled like scattered diamonds. As he swooped low over a silent, snow-covered meadow, a glint of white caught his eye. It was almost buried, a lonely speck against the vast blanket of snow. Curious, Bello landed gracefully, his talons sinking softly into the powder. There, stuck in a drift, was an envelope. It wasn't crisp and new like the others he'd carried. This one was old, its edges frayed and torn. The paper was yellowed with time, and a water stain had blurred the ink in one corner. It looked as though it had been lost for a very, very long time. With a gentle nudge of his beak, Bello turned it over. The handwriting was shaky, the kind a very young child makes, full of heart and effort. It read, "For Santa, from Emma, age 6. Bello's heart, usually so steady, skipped a beat. A letter for Santa from years ago. It had never been delivered. "Oh no," he hooted softly, his voice a worried whisper on the wind. He checked the sky. The first stars of Christmas Eve were already appearing. "This letter must reach Santa before midnight," he declared to the silent forest. There wasn't a moment to lose. A child's wish was at stake, no matter how old it was. Clutching the fragile envelope carefully in his talons, Bello launched himself into the freezing air. The wind howled like a hungry wolf, pushing against him with all its might. It was a brutal, icy gale that would have sent most birds scurrying for shelter. But Bello wasn't most birds. He was a post owl on a mission. He tucked his head down, pumped his powerful wings, and flew straight into the heart of the storm. Snowflakes, sharp and blinding, swirled around him like a frantic blizzard. He flew past colossal snowstorms that looked like angry gray mountains in the sky. He had to dodge tumbling clouds and navigate through thick, disorienting fog. The world below was a blur of white and shadow. At one point, he flew over a vast, frozen lake. The ice below reflected the starlight, making it look like he was flying over another sky, a mirror image of the heavens. It was beautiful, but treacherous. Feeling lost and weary, with his wings growing heavy from the cold, Bello looked up. And there, dancing across the northern sky, were the northern lights. Shimmering ribbons of green, pink, and purple painted the darkness. Bello had always heard the old tales that the northern lights were magical guides. "Excuse me," he hooted, his voice small against the vastness. "Can you show me the way to Santa's workshop?" As if they understood, a brilliant green ribbon of light swooped down, pointing him northward, illuminating a clear path through the storm. With renewed hope, Bello followed the celestial guide. He flew for what felt like an eternity, his feathers caked with ice, his muscles aching with exhaustion. He thought of little Emma, whoever she was, and the wish she had tucked inside that letter so long ago. That thought gave him the strength to keep going. And then he saw it. A warm, golden glow on the horizon. Below him, nestled in a valley surrounded by candy cane-striped trees, was Santa's workshop. It was a whirlwind of joyful activity. Lights twinkled from every window, smoke puffed merrily from the chimneys, and the faint sound of elven songs and hammering carried up to him on the wind. The sight was so magical, it warmed him from the inside out. With his very last bit of strength, Bello soared over the rooftops. He spotted Santa's study, the one with the large arched window. Santa was inside, checking his list for the final time before setting off on his sleigh. Mustering all his focus, Bello dove down. In one swift, graceful movement, he released the old, tattered letter. It fluttered through the air and landed perfectly, right on the center of Santa's grand wooden desk. His mission complete, Bello collapsed onto the windowsill, exhausted but triumphant. He watched as Santa, surprised by the sudden arrival, picked up the envelope. He looked at the faded address and the child's handwriting. He opened it carefully, his kind eyes scanning the words inside. A soft, knowing smile spread across his face. He looked up at Bello, who was peering in with his big, curious eyes. "Bello, my brave friend." Santa's voice was warm and gentle, like a crackling fireplace. "Thank you. This letter may be old, but the wish inside is still true." He read the letter aloud. It wasn't a wish for a doll or a toy train. Little Emma had wished for only one thing: for her family to be happy again. A wish from the heart. Santa closed his eyes for a moment, and a gentle wave of his hand sent a cascade of golden sparkles into the air. Far, far away, in a small town, a family that had been divided by sadness and misunderstanding found themselves drawn together that very night. They gathered under the same Christmas tree, shared hugs and forgiving words, and felt a warmth they hadn't felt in years. Emma's wish, lost for so long, had finally come true. Back at the North Pole, Santa turned to the little owl on his windowsill. He reached into a drawer and pulled out a small, shiny, golden badge. It sparkled even brighter than the star on top of his tallest tree. He pinned it gently onto Bello's feathery chest. Engraved on it were the words, "Official Last-Minute Hero." Bello puffed out his chest with pride, his heart soaring higher than he had ever flown. From that day on, Bello the post owl became a legend at the North Pole. And every Christmas Eve, just before taking off in his sleigh, Santa would give a little wink toward the northern skies and whisper to his reindeer, "Don't forget the letters the world forgot. Bello won't," and he never did. Thank you so much for listening to this special Christmas tale. I hope it brought a little warmth and magic to your day. If you enjoyed the story of Bello, please hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel for more stories like this one. Merry Christmas, and may all your wishes, old and new, find their way.